it's time to begin our final session of the day, political governance. Our presenters for this session are Hassan Shah from University of Buner, Saqib Hussain from KDA School of Public Policy and Management, South Korea, Syed Imran Haider from Allama Iqbal Open University, Islamabad. We are honored to have Dr. Khalid Chauhan, National Coordinator, NACTA, as our discussant for this session. And the session will be chaired by Dr. Hafiz Jamali, Director General, Balochistan Civil Services Academy.
Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon. I am Dr. Hassan Shah from University of Buner. My project title is Female Voting Preferences in District Buner. So I know that everyone is tired, so let me make it a bit, create a story with the permission of the head. Sir, जब मैं since 2018 में यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ बुनेर में पढ़ा रहा हूँ, तो हमारे साथ जो है जो मास्टर का प्रोग्राम चल रहा था, तो उसमें कुछ इस तरह स्टूडेंट थी फीमेल जो मतलब इस तरह थे कि यूनिवर्सिटी जब बन गई तो उसको एक अपॉर्चुनिटी मिल गई कि अपनी स्टडीज़ जो है कंटिन्यू करें, मतलब आफ्टर 5 इयर्स उसकी ब्रेक के बाद जो है दे कंटिन्यू देयर स्टडी। तो एक दिन क्लास में डिस्कशन हो रही थी और उस डिस्कशन के दौरान जो है जब मैं एक्चुअली जो मैं सब्जेक्ट पढ़ा रहा था वो इलेक्शंस के बारे में था, पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज़ एंड इलेक्शंस इन पाकिस्तान। तो उससे मैंने पूछा कि आपने पिछले इलेक्शन में वोट कहाँ पर डाला था, किसको सपोर्ट किया था? तो शी सेड नो, डिडंट कास्ट माय वोट। मैंने आस्क व्हाई? तो उसने कहा कि हमारे यहाँ जो है वोट डालना जो है हमारे एल्डर जो है दे आर नॉट अलाउिंग अस टू कास्ट योर वोट। और फिर जब मैंने डेटा जो है इलेक्शन कमीशन की डेटा जो है उसकी जांच पड़ताल कर ली, तो वहाँ से मैंने आइडेंटिफाई किया 21 पोलिंग स्टेशन उसमें इस तरह थे जहाँ पर सिंस 2013 हो सकता है इससे पहले भी वहाँ पर 0% टर्न आउट था। आपके साथ जो है इस प्रोजेक्ट जो रिपोर्ट है इसमें मैंने शेयर भी की है उसके नाम। तो ये तो एक स्टोरी थी। अब थोड़ा एक और एस्पेक्ट डिस्कस कर रहे हैं। जब फर्स्ट टाइम हमारी जो प्रोजेक्ट प्रपोजल एक्सेप्ट हुई थी, तो जब मिड टर्म रिपोर्ट हमने तैयार कर ली, तो यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ पेशावर में जब हम पीएचडी कर रहे थे तो वहाँ पर एक प्रोफेसर, जिसका मैं नाम नहीं लेना चाहता, वो एक सीनियर प्रोफेसर था और इसको जब वो हम अपने प्रपोजल देते रिसर्च प्रपोजल, तो जब वो वापस कर देते तो हमारे दोस्त कहते इसको तो सर ने लहू लहान किया। तो द सिमिलर थिंग वाज हैपन विद मी जब हमने अपने मिड टर्म रिपोर्ट जो है मैडम दुरे नायाब के साथ शेयर किया, तो वही उसने बहुत सी चीज़ें जो है जो हम जनरलाइज कर रहे थे यूनिवर्सिटी, तो उन्होंने हमें बिल्कुल फोकस कर दिया। सो आई थैंक्स टू हर। सो लेट्स स्टार्ट द टॉपिक। District Buner, situated in the Malakand division of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and is a hilly area, and it is still a backward area. And the education literary ratio of females are still 24%. That is very low. So there is a cultural heritage, and this district also have historical importance also. So the district, primarily populated by Pashtun, adheres to traditional tribal practices with significant socio-cultural and religious influences, impacting everyday life. And the economy is moving around agriculture, modern industry, and foreign remittances. You know that a large number of people of district Buner they are, they have sent their remittances from Malaysia and Middle Eastern countries. So this study investigates the influence of socio-economic, religious and cultural factors on female voting preferences in district Buner. जिस तरह मैंने आप कहा कि मैडम ने हमको एक फोकस कर दिया, तो मतलब उस फोकस का ये था कि हम जर्नली स्टडी कर रहे थे और मैडम ने कोशिश किया कि जो मेजर जो इश्यूज है, मतलब सोशियो इकोनॉमिक, कल्चर एंड रिलीजन जो है, दैट शुड बी फोकस. तो उसी पर हमने फर्दर काम किया. So limited employment opportunities and insufficient voter education among women influence female voting preferences. अभी भी आप स्टैटिस्टिक्स स्टडी कर ले डिस्ट्रिक्ट बुनियर के, तो वहाँ पर एम्प्लॉयमेंट रेशो जो है फीमेल की अभी मेरे ख्याल में 10% या उससे थोड़ा सा ज़्यादा होगा. मतलब फीमेल जो पॉपुलेशन है उसकी एम्प्लॉयमेंट या गवर्नमेंट एम्प्लॉयमेंट रेशो बहुत कम है. So insufficient voter education among women prevents them from properly evaluating election candidates and making informed voting decision. So our finding shows that economic dependency weakens women political decision making that influence female voting preferences. Similarly, economic dependency is also important issue, and it make them dependent on male, जो हम फाइंडिंग में डिस्कस करेंगे. Socio-economic restrictions and gender norms have curtailed women independent voting preferences.
Very slowly, sir.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
So you are able to finish it.
Okay, sir. Okay, my research objectives, there are 3 objectives: to know the causes of low female turnout in Buner, to understand the role of religion in female voting preferences in Buner, and the last one is to comprehend how socio-cultural factors influence female voters' preferences in district Buner. Now, methodology. In methodology, we used qualitative study, but in this qualitative study, we also used secondary data from the Election Commission of Pakistan, that is Form 48. So Form 48, and in Form 48 we selected only 80 female and 80 male polling stations. The combined polling station we removed it. So on the basis of that, we identified some facts and figures about the women voting preferences at that stage. But then we come to the second step, that is the primary data. So we conducted FDGs, 4 FDGs, and 23 interviews from the female voters and political activists. And you know, Buner is very famous about one of the female political activists or political party member. She already contested election, Savera Prakash. So then, theoretical framework, we also include a theoretical framework that is borrowed from intersectionality, feminism, liberal feminism, and theory of change model. So we also engage in this theory, in this study, these 3 theories. Now comes toward the findings. So we developed 3 themes. The first theme, that is socio-economic factors affecting women preferences, voting preferences. I already discussed it, that economic dependency is very important in political decision making. And you know, हमारे यहाँ जो पश्तो में एक कहावत है, और है भी, यह हकीकत भी है, कि औरत के लिए या तो घर है और या कब्र. पश्तो में हम कहते हैं द खज़ द पार या कोर दे या गोर. So this is a very famous quote, proverb in Pashtun society about female. अब यहाँ पर the things which we identified Uh, so the finding correspond with Crenshaw, which we already discussed, that is intersectionality theory. Notion of structure intersectionality, illustrating how interrelated socio-economic and familial structures influence women's roles in public and political domains. Their deficiency in voter education among women intensifies their political marginalization, as many as uninformed about the significance of vote. You know, if you go to those hilly areas, many women, we conducted that research. So at the first stage, we conducted a pilot survey. So in different areas, and that is far-flung areas, you know that Buner's 99.9% area is rural area. That is not urban area. So the female even don't know about the vote. They don't know about the political party even, and even the candidate. अब एक चीज़ जो मैं आपके साथ शेयर करना चाहता हूँ, ये 20 पोलिंग स्टेशन के बारे में जो मैंने कहा, ये आप कह सकते हैं क्या किस्सा है। ये असल में इस तरह है कि अब इलेक्शन कमीशन ने तो ये कहा है कि 10% इज़ रिक्वायर्ड इन ईच कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंसी, टर्न आउट रिक्वायर्ड। अब लोग क्या करते हैं वहाँ पर, वो 10% जो है उसको फुलफिल करते हैं, द रेस्ट जिस तरह मैंने कहा कि 21 पोलिंग स्टेशन जो है इस तरह है जिसमें अकॉर्डिंग टू इलेक्शन कमीशन डेटा वहाँ पर वोट पोल नहीं हुआ है, 0% टर्न आउट है। तो द रेस्ट ऑफ द पोलिंग सिचुएशन कि वहाँ पर क्या होगा, परसेंटेज बहुत कम है एज कम्पेयर टू मेल। So, moreover, restricted employment opportunities for women exacerbated their economic dependence, thereby limiting their political agency. Numerous participants recognize the financial independence would have enabled them to exercise greater autonomy in their, voting decisions. Next theme, that is Pakhtun culture and women voting preferences. Pakhtunwali is a code of Pakhtuns. Pakhtunwali, there are many elements in Pakhtunwali. For example, the most prominent one among them is Gharat, Zan, Zar Zan. So these are those famous codes, elements of Pakhtunwali. And these codes are dominated by patriarchal structures. So Pakhtun culture, especially via social identification, familial and tribal connections, and cultural principles, these are, those elements that caused, these are actually restricted female to independently think about their vote or their political decision making.
Sir, we have 2 more minutes.
Okay, sir. And the last one, that is religious factors influence female voting preferences. Religion, our society is a religious society. Majority of the people, even in Buner, there is a nominal portion of minorities are also living there. But the religion, the misinterpretation of religion and the use of religion is also, you can say, that is creating or restricting female to independently think in decision making and even their independent voting preferences. So, come to the conclusion. This research explores the socio-economic, cultural, and religious factors influencing women voting preferences in district Buner, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. Socio-economic dependency, particularly financial reliance on male family members, significantly shaped female voting preferences. Limited voter education and restricted employment opportunities further reinforced male influence over female electoral choices. Pakhtun cultural norms, including social identity, family, and tribal ties, and the practice of parda restricted women independent decision making, often compelling them to vote as directed by their families, male family members. Additionally, religious factors such as religious identity and the misinterpretation of Islamic values further limited women political engagement. Many women supported religious parties based on the perceived advocacy for women rights, while cultural interpretation of Islamic teachings restricted their public and political participation. Overall, the study highlights how intersecting socioeconomic, cultural, and religious barriers constrain female voting preferences in district Buner. So these are the few policy recommendations. The first one is voters' education among women needs to be improved by Election Commission of Pakistan in order to ensure women have independent from socio-economic, religious, and culture various voting preferences. The second one is community outreach programs may be launched in rural and urban areas to engage with female voters to educate them on voting process and encourage women participation. The third one is as there are cultural challenges to female voters, gender sensitive voting procedures may be adopted. For instance, online voting process for women may be launched. The next one is as there are economic challenges to female voters, microfinance programs and entrepreneurship support programs need to be ensured to economically empower women voters. Social protection programs such as education and health insurance programs may be introduced to improve female voter social status. As there are women, familial, and tribal ties involved in women voting, tribal, familial, and religious leaders may be involved to promote women political empowerment through voting. Independent resources centers for or women empowerment institutions need to be established for women to improve women's advocacy in private and political sphere. And lastly, monitoring and evaluation unit may be established to evaluate female voting progress from time to time. So thank you very much for your patience. Thank you, sir.
Formal and informal and land-related disputes and a couple of other consequences. So the ambiguity in the manual land records and insufficient accountability make the land revenue as one of the three most corrupt institutions in Pakistan in 2009. The weaker system of the land record, corrupt leadership, and other discretionary power also contributes in the land-related corruption. So to overcome all these challenges and the governance of land record management, the Punjab government in collaboration with the World Bank introduced land record management information system through establishing Punjab Land Authority in 2013. The aim was to facilitate the public access to land and bring transparency in the land records. Initially, the program was implemented in 18 districts. There was a pilot in 4 districts before 2013 and implemented in 18 districts in 2013 and later expanded to entire province in 2016. So this map represents the implementation of the program. So we can see two important variations in this map. The one is the early treatment region and late treatment. So all the early treatment districts are at the center of the province, while the late treatment districts are at the border. Second is the MOSA density, which I divided a number of MOSA with the population, and we can see that the high MOSA density districts are early treated. Actually, I used these variations to instrument the digitization in my research. So the features of the program is they automated the rural and semi-urban areas. Almost 90% of the land records are digitized in Punjab. The system has improved the service delivery standards by issuing the FAT, which is a land ownership document, in 30 minutes or mutation in the 50 minutes. They also established the 151 land record centers in Punjab province, and there is an online portal to get the land record documents. It also created some like direct and indirect jobs in Punjab province. So there are some existing important studies based on this project. The first one I mentioned here is my own study, which is published in Land Use Policy. I estimate the effect of digitization on land-related disputes. The other study is by Sabrina Beg. She evaluated the impact on labor market outcomes. And the another study by Shan Aman Rana she estimated the impact on agriculture. And the contribution of this study or the research questions are, I estimated the impact of digitization on land-related corruption, civil cases, access to agriculture credit, and land use. So before going into the main findings, the corruption is, there are three different attributes. The first one is the complaint. Complaint is a very first stage of documented or reported corruption incident. Inquiry initiated once the inquiry officer finds supporting facts of the incidents from a complaint. And then it can be converted into the cases once a malpractice or corruption has been identified. So we have three variables in corruption. The first one is complaint, inquiry, and then case. And then we have civil cases, which represents the land-related disputes, and then access to agriculture credit, and then land use. This is the preview of the findings. So I find that the digitization has increased the complaint by 30 to 61% across different specifications. Inquiries and cases has been decreased by 40 to 48% and 32 to 41% respectively. However, the conversion from the complaints to inquiries decreased by 0.48 to 74 standard deviations, and inquiries to cases has been decreased by 0.3 standard deviations. So the main mechanism here is we find the complaints has been increased, but the inquiries and cases has been decreased, which is due to the availability of the transparent information. And I also propose a game theoretic model which addresses the key players can predict the ultimate outcome in the malpractices. And then in case of civil disputes, I find that the civil dispute has been increased right after the digitization along with their mediation. No effect has been observed on the criminal, family, or guardian cases. I also find that the access to agriculture credit has been increased for both farm and non-farm holders. It also increased for the subsistence and economic holders. However, no effect has been observed on the above economic holders. In terms of the number of borrowers, I find that the number of borrowers has been increased. However, non-farm holder borrowers has not been increased, which is a key mechanism is that once you get the land document from the land record, you can have more access to the credit from the banks. And in case of land use, I find that the area cropped and area sown has been increased. However, no effect has been observed on the total reported area. So these are the policy recommendations. So the big chunk here is the after the digitization, we have household level or individual level wealth data in terms of the land ownership for the whole Punjab province, if not whole, almost like 90%. So this data can be used and merged with the other departments like excise, NADA, and taxation to improve the governance system in Punjab province. Secondly, the government and project funding based on the digitized land records for the data-driven decision making at the local level. For example, subsidies, agriculture, and taxes. The third important point is the generalization of the land record systems in the other provinces to ensure uniform and transparent land administration. Here I define the key mechanism behind all these effects. So I find that the availability of the transparent information and the predictability of the key players can lead these effects. So in terms of methodology, the research design is a quasi-experimental approach following all existing three main papers. I use the difference in difference and in reverse in case of corruption. And I also instrument the digitization through the border districts dummy and the deviation in the implementation of the plan. I also supplement the analysis with the other correlated random effect model to control for the time invariant variables like police stations and doors. And then I provide the Poisson regression analysis. In this presentation, I rely on the intent to treat analysis, and the main data sources includes Anti-Corruption Establishment, Land Record Management Information System, Lahore High Court, Punjab Bureau of Statistics, and State Bank of Pakistan. This is just the basic model and also include strategization. To rely on these estimates, there's an assumption we should have the balance between the early and late treaty districts before the implementation. So we can see the standardized coefficients. The omitted category is the phase 2 implementation. The coefficient represents the phase 1 implementation. So we can see there is no difference between the potential covariates. So this is the main table for the corruption incidents. The first panel is about the complaints, in second is for inquiries, and third is for cases. And the highlighted coefficient represents the effect of digitization on the number of complaints, inquiries, and cases. I also supplement the analysis with the actually I divided the total incidents with the population to normalize them and also provide the non-normalized outcome variables. This table represents the conversion of complaints to inquiries and inquiries to cases. So the effect is decreasing in this case. And this table represents the effect of digitization on the civil cases and disputes. So I find there's an increase in the registration of the civil cases in the column 1 and the mediation success also increased. However, there is no effect has been observed on the criminal, family, guardian, rent, and other cases from column 3 to column 7. This table represents the effect of digitization on agriculture credit. The first column shows the farm holding and subsistence, the second for the farm holding economic, third one is for the above economic. So I find the access to agriculture credit has been increased for subsistence and economic farm holders, and it also increased for the non-farm holders, even small and large. Table 5 represents the impact of digitization on the number of borrowers. We can see that the number of borrowers has not been increased for the farm holdings, which means that if the agriculture credit, the amount is increased, but the borrowers are not decreased, it means that the existing farmers have more access to the agriculture credit. While for the non-farm holders, there is more number of the borrowers in this category. So they can have the access to the agriculture credit. This table represents the effect of digitization on land use. In column 1, the total reported area has not been increased. The effect is insignificant, while the total area cropped and area sown has been increased. We also conducted a qualitative survey. So there are some strengths and weaknesses of the program. The main weakness is you can see there are some Urdu terms at the right side. So basically, when Patwaris used to manage these records, they are much aware of all these terms and transactions. But in case of the current staff at the Land Record Management Information System offices, they are not very much aware of all these type of transactions and records, which shows the lack of expertise. And there is also like more processing time sometimes, and still there is some need of correction of the records. And the strengths includes the transparency, access, and secured and free criminal practices. So for the robustness of the results, I
You have
use
you have 2 more minutes, sir, to complete.
Okay, thank you. So for the robustness, I use the different specifications. As I mentioned before, the correlated random effect, which is used to control for the potential time invariant characteristics, like, for example, the number of police stations, number of Mausas in Punjab province, and those. However, it returns the fixed effect estimates. And secondly, I instrumented the digitization with the two main variables. One is the border dummy, and second is the deviation in the implementation from its plan. I also have like valid exclusion restriction, and all results are consistent with ITT, but like with the large effect size. And I also use the Poisson regression when we have like many zeros, because in case of like corruption or several cases, I have all the outcome data is positive, zeros or positive. So that's why I use the Poisson regression and alternate specification controls for the different control variables. And then I use a normalized and non-normalized variables, two-way fixed effect, and all this. So the conclusion is the access to impact of digitized land records on land-related corruption in Punjab, Pakistan, coupled with like access to agriculture credit and civil cases in Lahore High Court. I use the implementation as a natural experiment. The main mechanism includes the transparency and the predictability, and the contribution and policy implication. It highlights the e-governance as a tool for reducing corruption through transparent land records. It provides insights for policymakers in Pakistan and other low-income countries. It supports the scaling up of the same system in the other provinces to improve the governance and transparency and accountability. And further research can audit the socio-political dynamics of this program. Thank you so much. So that's it from my side.
Thank you very much, Sakib Saab, for that excellent presentation and for concluding your presentation on time. Um, our next presenter is again presenting online. Um, so it's on low crime conviction and capacity challenges of police in Punjab, and by Sayyid Imran Haider from Allama Iqbal Open University, with a subject close to Dr. Chauhan's heart, I believe. So over to you, Imran Haider Saab.
Thank you very much. I'm Syed Imran Haider, basically an academic for past 18, 19 years, associate professor at Allama Iqbal Open University, but currently I'm a Marie Curie Research Fellow at Ca' Foscari University of Venice in Italy. So I'm here for 2 years, so apology I was unable to participate physically in this conference. So I think, shall I share my screen for the presentation?
If you could, please.
Yeah, sure. So, thank you very much. As mentioned earlier, the topic is on low conviction rates. And we have tried to assess the causes of low crime conviction or low conviction rate with regards to police capacity, as well as the socio-culture or socio-psychological factors behind that. Yeah, sorry, with me, like my co-investigators were Dr. Muhammad Kamran Naki, Dr. Sabat Haqqani, and Mr. Arfan from National Police Bureau. So without going into any kind of sharing with you the context of this research, but primarily we were actually asked by National Police Bureau, at that time Director General Dr. Hassan Sadiq, to initiate this study, and then I developed the proposal. So the background was the reason. The background is very low conviction rates in all over Pakistan, especially in Punjab.
Recording stopped.
With the
Recording in progress.
ever increasing crime rates, especially with regards to robbery and murders. So with that context, we initiated this study. The objectives were primarily to examine the factors which are influencing the crime conviction rates, and then to assess or evaluate the police capacity, as well as explore systematic issues in the criminal justice process. And somehow the yellow one was the most tricky and strategic, rather difficult, was to develop and implement a sort of pilot policy recommendations through this limited time research. Uh, so I'll just quickly move towards moving through the methodology. Actually, it was a multi-stage methodology in which the study was conducted in different phases. So in the phase one, primarily that was the content analysis based on the analysis of case files. So we collected data of last 10 years reported cases of murder and robbery in the Rawalpindi district, and then we tried to assess the trends and conviction rates over years, and then within those reported cases we selected 20 case files, and then all the documents related to those files were accessed and were reviewed. I'll In the later slide I'll go into detail for that. On the phase two, it was to evaluate the police capacity constraints, in which we conducted 3 focus group discussions with IOs, inspectors, and the assistant sub-inspector, inspector level cadre police officers. And at the phase three, to explore the systematic or system issues, we conducted in-depth interviews with different kinds of stakeholders, including police, including complainants, including witnesses, lawyers, prosecutors, and judges. With regards to phase one, the data showed a continuous increase in robbery. I still remember I was asked a question in the midterm review, the population has also increased. But so that's why now I have put it in a single slide to show you a comparison. Like in cases of murder, there is an increase, but the increase is understandable with regards to the period of time. It's 10 years, and the population increase, population density has increased, and there are so many socioeconomic factors. But with regards to robbery, it increased from under 1,000 to nearly 6,000 per year. And if we take an average of 10 years, it is still like at least 5 robberies per day on average for past 10 years in Rawalpindi district. So these are huge numbers that shows the relevance and importance of this research study. But when we see at the conviction rates, let's go on this slide. I'll just quickly go through this slide of the actual data per year. Like you can see, there are conviction rates of murder are somewhere between 35% to 15% to 35%, with an average of around 30% per year. But in cases of robbery, the range is quite interesting. It is from almost 0% to 14%. So the conviction in robbery cases is extremely low. With that background, when we did the document analysis of the selected 20 cases of murders and robbery, we identified, based on our humble capacity, 3 kinds of gaps or issues found from the document review or that content analysis. First, there were extreme delays at all levels, like delays in FIR registrations, delays in forensics, and there are long queues. There is a tedious process of approval for forensic evaluations. Police primarily is not trained in what you can say, like in managing or in dealing with such kind of evidence. Then in cases of murder, delays in postmortem. Sometimes families are not willing for the postmortem. Sometimes police avoid it. So multiple factors behind these delays. And then delays at each stage of case processing. Causes I'll present in the second phase when we interviewed police officials and we had conducted like FGDs with them. And then finally delays in trials, which remained, I think, the last issue till our discussion with all the stakeholders. Then documentation remained a key challenge with regards to capacity and self-motivation. Like in few cases, proper FIRs were not present. Either the pages were torn off or were not present at all. Then the times are not mentioned, that at which date, at which time a specific documentation was done. There were no formals like what we should say, structured reporting formats available. Uh, like the reporting primarily was depending upon the capacity of the IOs and their willingness to collect different kinds of documents and report them. And even the language for FIR was somehow similar, but in different other reporting like case reporting and case progress reporting was not present. And then with regards to prosecution and judiciary, uh, like procedures are highly bureaucratic. Prosecutors somehow are not regularly present even on the case hearings. So their self-motivation, or maybe there is somehow lack of accountability or an oversight. Then specific time to time need of training was also felt because the prosecutors were dealing different kinds of cases similarly. Uh, then going to the uh, then with regards to the components of investigation, the number of accused matters a lot. If like in cases of murder, this is a very, very crucial thing. Like if we have seen 7 cases, and in almost every case in while discussing in FGDs and interviews, the identified issue was like the complainants knowingly increase the number of accused of murders to like uh, settle the scores of enmity. If they know who has murdered their family member, but they add 3, 4 other names, that causes delays and issues. Then delays in reporting was also mentioned. Training, uh, I will highlight it in more detail in my later slides. Now, findings of the phase 2, which were with regards to the focus group discussions. We identified different kinds of issues: organizational challenges, procedural concerns, investigative challenges, legal concern, personal and workplace challenges, training and development. So I will just try to identify something maybe new or maybe different, like personal and workplace challenges. Uh, the lack of motivation, personal motivation, because of the routine of work, maybe because of uh, the workload or different kinds of duties assigned to a single police official. There were very low motivation found. And then they had coping mechanism which are again power oriented. If when they are stressed due to work, their stress go down to their subordinates and also to those who are at that time in their police stations, like the accused individuals of different cases. Then with regards to training, uh, I think this was the single most important finding of the study. There should be a competency-based investigative procedural training courses for IOs, proper certifications, because they do trainings from time to time, but those are usually outdated. The content is not uh, with regards to the current standards, because the crimes are more now happening with the help of technology, social media. Uh, and forensic evidence important. So competency-based training, specific trainings, and which should be mandatory for all the investigative officers. With regards to organizational challenges, structural instability, like very frequent transfers, and then the same person is sometimes assigned the duty of investigative officer, then the guard duty, then protocol duties, then so there should be specific departments or specific sections within police station, and that is again another recommendation to be given at the end. There should be a specific investigation branch or investigative department within the police station, so those officers are not bound to do other duties. Then with regards to procedural concerns and legal system, prosecutors, their motivation, their training, and their engagement, and also a system of accountability was found very important in that. So coming on to the findings of phase 2.
You have, Dr. Seth, you have 2 more minutes to conclude your presentation.
Okay, so for finding of interviews were also similar, but here they identified the issues like bribery, the external locus of control within the interviews. That was mostly highlighted, that it's not only their police officers who control their duties, who influence or who interfere into their work, but rather political figures, rather district administration, then judicial officers. So I'm skipping the similar kind of things. Now, yeah, I think this slide is now important to at least to be presented in the next one. We need to optimize investigation procedures by outlining, we should develop a kind of detailed, structured, police station level activity guidelines for each step, and which should be written, available with the police station, to be followed by every IO who is new and or old. Then streamlining the documentation procedures. Again, the standard operating systems of documentation at each stage. Then resource allocation was again and again mentioned. I didn't mention because it has been always highlighted as an issue. But yeah, proper resource allocation is still a major issue. Then self-management, and yeah, stakeholders support, support from other stakeholders other than police was very crucial, especially the societal stakeholders. Then it's individual capacity building thing, training, programs enhancement, I already mentioned, technology integration, and finally this slide I've just written while I was presenting. We need to establish a specialized and independent investigation wing, maybe within police station or at least at district level. Then we need to enhance prosecutor and police coordination. This should be a system of meetings, a debrief meeting during the case proceedings, to better develop a case. And then case management system I've already mentioned. Yeah, we need to invest more in forensic, because there are longer queues. There should be forensic lab at lower levels, not only at Lahore, Peshawar, or in the bigger cities. So digital investigation capabilities need to be enhanced. Again, training is a focus, and then strengthening internal accountability was mentioned. Finally, from my Italian experience, I don't know whether it is good to be mentioned here. It's just a 1 minute thing. Here I have found there are so many types of police. For guard duty, a specific police; for financial crimes, specific police; for murders. So that is
You could conclude, finish your presentation, because we are over.
okay. Yeah. So then finally we try to implement the psychological aspect, and it shows quite good results. like the critical thinking needs to be developed, and we need to engage them to reduce their stress, and self-management strategies were given to them in a single day workshop, and the post test brought some encouraging results. So thank you very much. I think that's all from my side.
Thank you very much, Sayyid Imran Haider and our other esteemed presenters, both in person and those who were online. I would, anyways, on a lighter note, that reminds me of a tragic incident from the archive on Gwadar, that back in 95, the native assistant, the native the British government at Gwadar wrote a letter to his superiors in Karachi and Calcutta that he requires two more clerks to assist him because his predecessor Lal Khan had committed suicide because of drudgery of uh, boredom of official work. So I think that reminds me of the plight of our IOs and prosecutorial staff. Um, we move on to comments by our discussant, Dr. Khalid Chauhan, National Coordinator NACTA, is with us as discussant, sir.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Three very important presentations made today. One which is very close to my heart. That's about the female voters' preferences. The other related to my job as a police officer. And the third one, which sort of, influences and has implications for all of us. And in a way, it's also related to my job. So first of all, the choice and the approval of these three very important presentation and topics of research is, the credit goes to RASTA, RAC, for funding these important, research studies. Now, I'll be frank and open in my comments, so please take these in a very constructive sort of spirit. I was thinking that the very important topic of female voters' preference has been sort of dealt very casually. Why I do so, that I'm sure that Dr. Hassan Shah may have response to my queries or my clarification. Please hold them and correct them if I am, I'm sort of mistaken. But the thing is that for a research is something very different from hearsay. It is different from picking up the strands which are already there. You have to come up with some sort of theoretical framework. And in your case, there's a lot of literature available on feminism. Personally, I've done PhD on gender and development studies. I published a book. And I'm sure that if you might have written gender inequality in Pakistan, that's a result which pops up even in the Google, and you might have actually benefited from that. The research is conducted in a particular context. In the case of feminism, situation of women in Pakistan, history is very important. And there is a debate which goes back to the first women conference arranged by the UN in 1996, I believe, and the Beijing Platform for Action. In our case, it's also important to ask ourselves that can we expect from the marginalized to empower themselves in the larger context of empowered debate? If we say that it's all about women, that we are falling in the same trap, that the problem is with the women. And I couldn't find any reference, though I've not read your report in detail, about the role of the government as such. In developing countries, the government is a very potent and effective organization. Where the government, did government contribute to the marginalization of women in this country or not? I'm sure that if you read the literature, you'll find a lot. You can go back to the 70s, the Zia era, and how it curtailed the agency, a human agency of the women in this country. When the women, they were not even allowed to join the police service or the foreign service. And make no mistake that women are half of the population in this country. They play a significant role. I'm not sure whether you have read sort of, text of the speech which was made by Dr. Ishrat Hussain, where he speaks about the women's quiet revolution. Despite the fact that the government has not done enough, in many other countries, affirmative action has been invoked. But in the case of Pakistan, the government's restrictive culture has always been problematic. But we do know that even in the case of, uh, before pre-partition at the colonial times, sati was an established practice. And it was for the magistrates at the time, which used to be Britishers, to administer those very cruel, gruesome sort of, social practice of sati, wherein a woman at the time when her husband died would jump into the pyre of fire only for the reason that it was culturally permissible. In our case too, culture by and large may be part of the problem. I mean, I don't want to give any sweeping statement, but it does have an effect as one of the factors, not the whole of it, but so does the role of the state. It's very important not to get swayed only by few things and just reinforce those things. There's a socio-economic reason, that the poverty, unemployment. If we do that, how will women sort of imply themselves? The women are not going to imply themselves. Have you considered quotas? The function of quotas. Do you think that is it a function of participation or not? If you look at the feminist literature, you can broadly sort of come up with a three-point typology, where A, there's a focus on participation of women, be it from the state or from their own self. Initially, the debate was that, it's because the women are part of the problem, they are not participating, therefore they are not contributing to their role. But then sanity prevailed, and people thought that probably it is due to the lack of access or limited access provided to the women and many other marginalized segments of the society as well. That is a part of the problem. But later, the debate on the whole issue of marginalization and limited empowerment, that shifted to getting the institutions right, by the responsibility of the state to come up with a public policy. And whereas the problems exist at the social level and at the institutional level, it is through the realm of public policy that we can affect social change. Look at the example of people of color in the US. They were not allowed to go to the schools. How did that change? So if you tell me the same thing, that the culture is a problem and the socio-economic reasons are there, and it's about the economics and the people, I'm not getting anything new. I won't be impressed much. Pardon me if I'm so sort of, straightforward, but as academics, as researcher, it is your duty to sort of scan the whole, not the whole, but the majority of the literature on the subject, if you've chosen out of your own choice. And I really appreciate you for how much of time I have, Doctor? Okay, so just raise the card if you think that. So if you think that you have chosen, rightfully chosen, a very, very important topic about the role of the women and how, that is curtailed, in this case, the participation of women in the electoral process, giving them the choice, are they exercising their own choice? But the larger debate is about the agency of the marginalized, as we know. And appreciation obviously is in order, because you thought something is happening, the women are not sort of casting their votes, so you came up with a very good idea. But beyond that, uh, you need to have that larger scoping of the, as I said, look at the liberal feminism. And the feminism in this case is not a bad word. Essentially, at times people who have not people who do not have a grasp, they think that probably we are talking about, because this is an academic debate. So therefore, liberal feminism is about the participation or the lack thereof, right? And then you move on to the Marxist feminism, where it's more about the women's access to resources, or the access to resources being a pivot and a very important aspect for many different, segments of the society. And then you move on to the radical feminization, that no, it's not about the individuals, it's not about the women, it's about the state, it's about the public policy. If you bring all those things together, and if you look and scan, maybe very briefly, the public policies which have been implemented in this country for long too many years, and its impact on the disempowerment of the marginalized segment, in this case the women, I think you could have come up with many interesting recommendations. So there's a lot of scope in terms of improvement of this study, and I suggest and recommend that you take, once again, you take a relook and sort of improve that. The second study land record management information system. Again, the choice of the topic is very important. It is topical. We know that the digitization, we know that the sort of, uh, coming up with due processes and systems thinking and the implementation of the system in many different levels, that minimizes the human interface. It also curtails the prospects of corruption and vested interest. And there are a lot many theories on the issues of vested interest and personal interest and how that relates to the opposition and the resistance. In this case, how does power and privilege actually uh, sort of motivates someone not to go the path of reform? And that's very important here in this case. We know that the Patwaris, they have had for long many years that power of having access to information. So they would always resist in sharing that. Out of that, individuals, we are all humans, and if there are unchecked, there are no constraints and there are no controls, and it is all open to someone, then it opens the way to corruption and maladministration and malpractice, and everyone suffers within that vicious circle, so to speak. We also know that in this country, because of this digital ID provided by NADRA, the system has advanced. Not only in this, in the case of family registration certificate, but it is connected with the acquisition of passports. And since I'm a police officer as well, uh, it is hugely connected to the investigation of crime, which is related to the third presentation, which I'll speak to later. But these days, the fingerprints, if you go and buy a SIM for getting, mobile sort of access to a particular carrier, you go to any other place, you go and want to have your passport, it is verified against that database. So the database and digitization is a way forward. We are a country of 250 million people. Majority of our population comprises of youth, and typically there's a youth bulge. There is no concept of public policy without actually sort of having the numbers right. Unfortunately, in the case of Pakistan, we don't know that what is our real population in real term as of today. How can we plan? So these digitized solutions, though there's a lot of capacity and at the individual level, we have talented youth. They're coming with many startups, but and we're grateful that the present government has also come up with this Udan Pakistan project and the PND's spearheading. I often get to ask this question: how will things be implemented? Recently, NACTA we have come up with this National Prevention of Violent Extremism policy. As a policy is perfectly sort of fine, but at the same time, like many other policies, people do rightfully ask, how those things will be implemented. So this good initiative undertaken by the government of Punjab, I think that's a leap forward in the right direction. I fully endorse the recommendation of presenter that needs to be replicated to other provinces. Our success, we have.
Dr. Chauhan, may I ask you be brief because we need to give that audience a chance to.
Right. Okay. So these just to sum it, we got to have those systems and the best practices elsewhere. There's a function of reforms elsewhere in the world, and we're not doing something novel. The more we delve into these and implement these solutions at par with the NADRA example or this LRMIS, the more it will benefit in terms of the service delivery and the transparency and the functioning of the state and the state institutions in terms of developing that trust, which is highly solicited but rarely is, found. These tailor-made solutions, they will help in that direction. The third one is about the conviction. I'm not sure whether the researchers use the word corruption in that or not. At times, again, is a vested interest of the individuals. If someone is interested in coming back from my own experience, a case may not actually may not be actually have a positive conviction only because of the investigating officer favoring A party or B party. I'm not sure whether corruption has been dealt in that. I wish that we were disinterested individuals and very objective individuals, but unfortunately, this is not the case. Human beings, they come up, they bring in their own culture, they bring in their own, interest. And unless there are the constraints or those factors, the contextual factors making the individuals accountable, the humans can, go either way. And in this case, because of the huge incentives, they can sell their soul as well. But other than that, if I'll just give you an example, I'm glad that they looked at the issues of murder, probably 13 in the Rawalpindi district, and then the burglary. All cases are not registered. A murder case is highly likely to be registered because it will be highlighted by media, and a foul murder is, as they say, the blood can't be actually, sort of. Don't no draperies or covers can actually save the murderer. So it has to see the light of the day, the foul murder. But so far as a burglary is concerned and many other mugging is concerned, it is highly likely that such cases may not even be registered. We're talking about the capacity or the lack thereof in the police organization. This is common to many. Consider the land revenue management organizations, the public sector, the many different departments. And you come across the same finding that there is a need for training because the individuals, they lack the capacity. But how can that capacity be actually built? Do we need to be more transparent in the registration of cases? An experiment was made in another context in another country when a police commissioner joined. I think that was in 2015, and he said that, from today all cases will be registered. And the number of crimes, they escalated. They were more than double. So restrictive controls are in place at the level of the DPOs, because the police stations, if they register the cases, then they are held accountable, and it is considered actually, rather than encouraging those individuals for. And second, we know that because of the limited capacity of the police organization, which suffers from lack of functionalism, they consider that, okay, if we register that, how will we investigate that, such a case? Go and ask yourself, your near and dear ones, that if something has happened, maybe a mobile snatching, what was their experience? Was the relationship, was the sort of connection, interaction with the police as an organization, was that congenial? Did they feel satisfied? Being a police officer, I can vouch that I have seen individuals struggling and suffering, and the whole image settles. So therefore, we need to be more, process oriented, more forthcoming, and the journalistic model, be it in police or elsewhere, that's not going to help ourselves. The specialists, the researchers in many different fields, such as economists, such as, the criminologists and the social scientists, they need to be valued in the society. We have to make progress. I like the use of the FGDs. Like the use of save for this bias. And the very last minute, the researcher has said that, from their Italian experience, I thought that that was within the sort of focus and the scope. That was out of the scope and the focus, unless it was, sort of shared right in the beginning and within the scope of the research. But having said so, such research papers, they help us, and they show the quest for something which is much better. This being away from the colonial thoughts, this is our country, and we have to take it forward. Our youth has to take it forward. We must indigenously think about the problems, and we must come up with the solutions, so that every little bit will contribute to the bigger picture at the macro level. The issue of crime conviction is very tricky. some things have been rightly pointed out, and the word training is a buzzword. You can fit it in any of the wherever the individuals or the humans are. You can put it in any context. One of the recommendations, but it's not that simple. As I said, the policing is very is a very tedious job. But most of the time, I've seen that the FIR translates into statement under 161. It is exactly the ditto replication. If you change it a little bit here and there in the court of law, they will say that the FIR says this and the statement under 161 says that. Just consider the example of, again, coming from a gender perspective, the case of some women dying in the household which she has chosen or which she has been sent to. I mean, the in-laws' house. How does the thing happen? At times, you won't find any witnesses because the people may not be sympathetic to the person who has lost their job. I'll take just a couple of more minutes. And then, so you won't find the witnesses there. Without witnesses, can't expect a conviction to have. At times, it's a common practice that the murder happens in the morning. The people, they go to the police station, they tell a different time. They say that rather than 10 a.m., they would say that the murder happened, the person died at 2 p.m. And that's recorded in the FIR. This forensic science lab, again, is an amazing thing that needs to be replicated to other provinces. We know the Zainab murder case and how somebody who mixed up within the community, how through this extensive exercise of DNA testing, that person was, sort of traced. Otherwise, one can resort to torture. One can actually, sort of get the vouch to the sort of influence of community, but it won't be systematic. The person committed a crime, mixed with the community, and started even sort of finding the culprits. Save for this DNA forensic lab, he could not have been brought to justice. The same applies. I think I'm sort of diverging a bit, but you know, so if a murder has happened at 10 a.m. and the FIR shows that the time of 2 p.m., judge won't have any other option but to say that there is the benefit of doubt must go to the accused. So whereas we say that the judges need training, but most of all, if there are no vested interests, we have seen that they try to see it through the prism of the evidence which is collected, and it is there which needs to be improved. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much, Dr. Chauhan, for those very thoughtful comments and suggestions and feedback. And now the floor is open for questions by the RAC as well as the rest of the audience. We'll take a few questions and ask the respondents to respond to them in one go to save time. Dr. Zahid Askar.
Thank you very much. On first paper, as Dr. Khalid Chauhan has highlighted it very well, that these findings are not emerging from any sort of research. These are just personal perceptions, maybe from people or from the author. So I fail to find where is the scientific evidence through which these findings, which are well known to everyone. So we were expecting more. On second paper, I have also expected some more insight. At the moment, I am a bit confused about the findings of this study. The results shown in a graph shows that all those coefficients are zero. So what does that mean? It means there is nothing, there is no variable, either population, sex, everything. Those are all zero. So I did not find what is it. And then difference in difference method is applied, but I did not find its research design insight, how you have control and intervention group before 2014 or 2012, and you have 5 years, 7 years time period data, and what was your control and intervention after that, and then you have similarly your table 2, 3, 4 results you have mentioned. Basically, I'm not getting where those magnitudes are. You are saying 40, but I did not find anything 40 in that. I don't see that why digitization will lead to less complaints or digitization will lead to more complaints. digitization will lead to more you see cases in the code, because this is making making it more convenient to file cases than doing it manually. So I was expecting some more insight, especially from your research, but maybe I did not get from the paper you have, or the time was short and so you were unable to explain it properly. Thank you.
Do you have more questions? Dr. Mahmood Khalid.
So thank you very much. Very interesting presentations and the roundup given by the discussant. My quick comment on the second paper is that when we talk about the impact, generally either it should be with reference to some counterfactual, or we have to think about the cost benefit of this intervention. So that is something which I couldn't actually see from this presentation, at least, that how would we say that this is something which has actually benefited in some respect. In terms of the last paper, my query is that, and Chauhan Sahab has rightly identified as well, that often we are too much focused in terms of when the crime has actually committed, and then the prosecution and all the courts and other issues have been dealt. But what about the laws, regulations under which a particular sentence or a particular conviction is going to be taken? Maybe there is a conflict in terms of how that architecture is actually made, where actual stance of a crime has actually taken place. There are conflicting laws, there are other rules, procedures which are often cited in the cases and the discussions in the courtrooms as well. So these are my two observations. Thank you.
So may I ask, if there are no further questions, may I ask Shah Sahab, we can start with you to respond to at least some of the questions and comments.
Thank you, Khalid Sahab, for your valuable suggestions. Actually, in this research study, I engaged two theoretical frameworks. One is Campbell Crenshaw, intersectionality, and the other one is theory of change, that is Carroll basis. So I will also work on your suggestion also, further improve it. The next thing which you mentioned, that the government intervention, I agree with you, sir. इलेक्शन कन्वेंशन की जो है कि 10% टर्न आउट जरूरी है, लेकिन फीमेल की वाई 10%, वाई नॉट 50% या इस तरह 50% तो हम हमारे जो है ओवरऑल टर्नआउट में पाकिस्तान में 40% के राउंड अबाउट होते हैं. तो आई विल वर्क ऑन. जो सर ने कहा परसेप्शन तो मेरे नहीं है. Actually, we conducted 4 FDGs from different people and stakeholders, and as well 23 interviews from female voters and political activists. तो असल में जो presentation मैंने actually डिटेल रिपोर्ट है, उसमें बहुत सी चीजें ऑलरेडी डिस्कस्ड है, और आप उसको पढ़ लें इंशाल्लाह, तो उसमें बहुत सी चीजें आपको मिल सकती है. और ये प्रेजेंटेशन में मैंने थोड़ा वो एक इतना डिटेल डिस्कशन उसमें प्रोवाइड नहीं किया था. सो आई एम सॉरी फॉर दैट.
Thank you, Shah Sahab. Are our other presenters still online or?
Yes, I'm online. Can I respond?
Yeah. Please, is that Imran Sahab?
Saqib.
Saqib Sahab. Ji. Saqib Sahab, please do.
So the first question was about the coefficients, which shows a null effect. Actually, it was the balance test before the intervention between the early treated and late treated districts. And second was about the 40% and the number of exact number of the coefficients. Actually, in the summary of the findings, I converted the coefficients into the percentages and standard deviations for the better interpretation. And in terms of like DID, so we have two kind of data. First one is only Punjab, which is for corruption. So that represents the impact of early treatment on the outcome variables. But in case of like access to agriculture credit, we have data on Punjab and the rest of the provinces. So it is a kind of a staggered difference in differences, which compares the like first phase, second phase, and then the like untreated districts. And then there was a question about the counterfactual. So same, for example, in case of corruption and land use data, the counterfactual is the late treated districts. And in case of access to agriculture credit, it represents the late treated as well as the pure control group, which are the other provinces in Pakistan.
Sayyid Imran Haider Sahab, if you
जी,
are
जी,
online,
जी sir,
if
I'm
you could
available.
respond, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, I really appreciate the feedback given by the discussant as well as the question. जी, actually दो points थे. एक तो जो बात हुई trainings की, yeah, it's a buzzword, but what we really find important was the competency-based specific trainings to be provided with regards to different kinds of evidence collection and different kinds of crimes. Like we were working on robbery and murder, तो वहाँ पर एविडेंस कलेक्शन से लेकर और जो पूरा इन्वेस्टिगेटिव प्रोसीजर है, एटलीस्ट जो मैंने बात की कि एक स्टैंडर्ड गाइडलाइंस हो, स्टेप बाय स्टेप डॉक्यूमेंटेशन की एटलीस्ट. सो जहाँ पे भी इवैल्यूएशन हो, सो उसके अंदर एक स्टैंडर्डाइजेशन हो सके. सेकेंडली डेफिनेटली सर करप्शन एंड मैंने एक टर्म यूज़ की थी एक्सटर्नल लोकस ऑफ कंट्रोल. सो जो एक्सटर्नल फैक्टर्स थे वो बहुत ज़्यादा हाईलाइट हुए, बार बार हुए. Due to the lack of time, I couldn't really क्या कहना चाहिए put a stress on that. लेकिन definitely बहुत ज़्यादा important है, but मेरी study के थोड़ा सा beyond scope थे. The focus was only on the police officials and the prosecutors. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for those responses. I'll abuse my privilege as the chair to, give some comments. So उसमें एक तो जो कल से डॉक्टर चौहान ने कहा, उसमें तो we need to be careful in assigning or interpreting things to culture, क्योंकि वो जो cultural ideal होता है और वो जो reality होती है उसमें फर्क होता है. So western और eastern बलूचिस्तान में दोनों बलोच culture और जो हम पख्तूनवली की तरह हमारे यहाँ बलूची मयार होता है वो फॉलो करते हैं, लेकिन कारोकारी के जो है 90% केसेस जो है ना वो ईस्टर्न बलूचिस्तान में होते हैं और जो है सिर्फ 10% जो है वेस्टर्न बलूचिस्तान में होते हैं. तो इट्स नॉट द केस कि वो कल्चरल आइडियल डिफरेंट है, द रियलिटी और इंटरप्रिटेशन जो है वो अलग है. सिमिलरली मेरा होम डिस्ट्रिक्ट है जाफराबाद और नसीराबाद जो ईस्टर्न बलूचिस्तान में है, ये हमने खुद ऑब्जर्व किया है कि वो खवातीन जो इकोनॉमिकली इंडिपेंडेंट है, जिसकी कोई नौकरी है, घर वाले उसको नहीं हर्ट करने की कोशिश करते. So the women who are targeted are the women they think in their view, which is a very obnoxious calculation, that they are dispensable. They can get away with that. They can get away with murder. So उस तरह है. तो we have to be very careful in assigning these. और same observation जो आपने capacity easy, especially जो हमारा donor driven discourse है कि उसमें हम बताएं कि जो है ना वो there is lack of capacity in a certain area और हम capacity building की कोई right, it's everybody likes capacity building, don't we, right? But at the end of the day there may be serious issues with our organizational cultures, with the way we approach issues, right? That sort of no matter how many types of trainings we deliver will not be covered. So we need to so all these comments, we had a sort of wonderful round of 2 days of presentations, and we had very thoughtful feedback and comments. So please take them in their stride, and we gotta improve. I think as members of the RAC and sort of the Rasta community, or rather the Rasta family, we have to step up. We have to again, but we commend the work that has already been done and the wonderful presentations. And with those remarks, I would close this session and invite our very own, none other than Dr. Fahim Jahangir Khan, to offer the closing remarks.